like to call to order the Hingham Board of Selectmen meeting for April 14th. It's now 7 p.m. This meeting is being held remotely by telephone as an alternate means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12th, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all telephone communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law, and I make you aware that we are in fact recording this meeting. It is with a heavy heart that I call us to order this afternoon, and I would like to observe a moment of silence for an inspirational citizen and town volunteer, Barbara Cook, who passed away. You know, Barbara was one of those people who was always looking out for those people who needed a little extra help. Folks know her from town. She volunteered on PTOs, the Hingham High School Council. She was active in the Hingham Food Pantry, and I came to know Barbara when she was a member of the school committee during the economic downturn in the late 2000s. She served with grace and commitment to serve every student in Hingham Public Schools, and that's the way she carried herself no matter what it was she did. You know, I think you come across people in life that touch you in a way that maybe surprises you. She was a very special soul, and she made me a better person every time I was in her orbit. My heart breaks for her daughters, Caroline and Allison, and her husband, John. And I just ask if we could just observe a moment of silence in her memory and in her honor. Thank you. I would like to move now to the approval of the minutes for April 7th, 2020.
This is Joe Fisher. I've reviewed the minutes of April 7th, 2020, and I would move to approve those minutes.
Second. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye. Joe?
Aye.
Mary Power?
Aye.
Karen Johnson? Aye. Approved unanimously. Okay, as is now our custom, we move to a COVID update that will also include an update on the crazy storm we've had, as if COVID's not enough, right?
Yes.
So if Town Administrator Mayo could provide us with both the COVID update and a storm update, that would be great.
Absolutely happy to. Thank you, Selectman Johnson. So yesterday's storm, yes, this was, while obviously we had a forecast of it, it's hard to understand the severity of those winds until you see some of the damage it caused. So some points I'll just highlight for folks. And speaking with our DPW superintendent, he simply referred to this storm as a major event. There were approximately 38% of HMLP customers were affected to one degree or another. As of this report, only 3 to 4 customers remain without power. They just do absolutely amazing work. Debris pickup is ongoing and may take several weeks. DPW had to call in 2 crane crews to assist. Remember that the debris pickup may take a little longer, in part because the DPW staff are complying with social distancing and PPE guidelines. As there is only 1 person per vehicle, everyone is wearing masks and gloves and attempting to be extremely careful. So we thank them for their efforts. The fire department reported over 60 calls between noon and midnight yesterday, much higher than what they've seen in the last few weeks as a result of the storm. HMLP actually had to call in one of its sister municipal light groups over in Braintree. The Beld had to come in and assist the Hingham cleanup yesterday and today. So that's very much appreciated to the town of the city of Braintree. There was also minor damage to some dwellings in town, and actually 1 car has been reported to me anyway as having been totaled as a result of the storm. So some significant damage across the town, a lot of cleanup to do, but as usual, our folks are on it, and we'll get it done in a safe and efficient manner. On to COVID updates. So we are preparing, as we reported last week, we're preparing for a very tough couple of weeks ahead. Estimates are that we'll see a caseload peak or surge around April 20th in Massachusetts, and there's no reason to assume Hingham would be any different. So those are the projections right now. The entire incident management team meets every morning at 9:30 a.m. to share the latest information and updates. The command team, otherwise known as the Unified Command, meets later in the day to review new developments and talk through operational decisions. The IMT staff are in regular contact with nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and other residences for seniors and vulnerable citizens in town to advise on procedures and protocols to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. We are also in touch with grocery stores and more than 100 food establishments about social distancing guidelines and new guidance from the state that comes out regularly, with local hospitals about their procedures and current capacity, and with residents who have tested positive for COVID-19 to trace those close contacts and advise on isolation and quarantine procedures resulting from those tested positive tests. The IMT team continues to ensure that essential town staff and first responders have enough personal protective equipment, PPE, to safely do their jobs. We have received one shipment of PPE from MEMA so far and know that funeral homes and long-term care facilities have received similar supplies from MEMA, and we thank them for those supplies. We get regular reports from MEMA and the Department of Public Health, DPH, about new state and federal guidelines. The health department has received a second check for approximately $10,000 from Department of Public Health for COVID-19 related expenses that we'll likely use for surge staffing. And everyone on the IMT, please know, is working extremely hard to try to flatten the curve and protect its citizens and our employees. Case data. So we are continuing to follow the Department of Public Health's recommendation to report positive cases by county. As of today, the state is reporting 2,207 COVID-19 cases in Plymouth County. We believe that Hingham is experiencing COVID-19 cases proportionately to the other 26 communities in the county. Please keep in mind that the numbers reported by the state are lower than the actual number of cases, as they do not include clinical diagnoses of COVID-19 by medical professionals or by people who self-diagnose and stay at home. Domestic violence. So domestic violence is an unfortunate byproduct of this event, and we just want to highlight some ways that people can reach out for help. So last week, the state announced expansion of a program called SafeLink. Now, the Commonwealth statewide 24/7 toll-free confidential domestic violence hotline that now includes resources and support for survivors of sexual assault. The SafeLink toll-free number is 877-785-2020. For the hearing impaired, the SafeLink TTY number is 877-521-2601. It is also available through the 211 line. If you are experiencing violence within your home, or you are concerned about a loved one that may be experiencing violence, please call the SafeLink hotline for support and resources. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911. Other mental health resources. During this stressful time, it's important to take care of your mental health and to help others do the same. If you need emotional support during these stressful times, available resources include the Hingham Health Department's licensed social worker, Cheryl West. Cheryl is a great resource, and she's available via telephone to residents to talk things through or just to listen. She can be reached at 781-804-2370 or by email at westc@hingham-ma.gov. Massachusetts residents can dial 211 and choose the call to talk option. Samaritans is continuing operations 24/7 as always. During this unprecedented time, it can feel overwhelming to receive constant messages about COVID-19. Call or text their 24/7 helpline anytime at 877-870-4673. Another resource is the Disaster Distress Helpline, which can be reached at 985-5990, and is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year national hotline dedicated to providing immediate crisis counseling for people who are experiencing emotional distress related to any natural or human-caused disaster, including disease outbreaks like COVID-19. This toll-free, multilingual, and confidential crisis support service is available nationwide. We've posted messages about these domestic violence and mental health resources on our COVID-19 webpage and Facebook on the Town of Hingham's webpage. And we know this is a tough time for everyone. We appreciate all of the steps our residents and businesses are taking to protect themselves and others against COVID-19. We are not through this yet. We have to stay vigilant, and we appreciate everyone's efforts and sacrifices thus far. I think Michelle has an update on some of the services that we're providing now as well.
Thank you, Tom. Michelle?
Thanks, Tom and Karen. So just a few tonight. Wanted to mention that our permitting boards, so planning board, ZBA, Conservation Commission, etc., Town Council has helped us issue guidance about permit application procedures in effect during the state of emergency right now to ensure that our permitting boards can continue their work. That guidance for anyone applying for permits can be found on the town website as a newsflash and also on each permitting board's page. As more boards and committees are considering using Zoom's video conferencing capabilities for their public meetings, we're making sure that all Zoom meetings are staffed to make sure that they go smoothly and that everyone can participate. So we have a small team of staff from different departments that are being trained to quickly become Zoom experts. For Public Works, I just wanted to follow up from last week with a quick update to follow on the transfer station's announcement that the scale was being closed. New England Recycling is one option where residents can bring their bulky waste or construction debris. New England Recycling is located in Taunton, and we recommend calling ahead to verify the fees and the drop-off times. Their number is 508-822-4345. And then another option, South Shore Recycling Cooperative, our DPW superintendent said is a good resource online with a lot of information about how to recycle or get rid of different types of materials. So their website address is ssrb00p, so coop.info. That's the South Shore Recycling Cooperative. And then two other departments we wanted to highlight this week. One was Elder Services. So Jennifer Young provided the following updates. With the help of the senior center staff and staff from other town departments, approximately 200 individual phone calls are being made each week to seniors. Most seniors receiving the calls are appreciative of the personal contact and are eager to talk. And at the end of this week, almost 1,000 total calls will have been made. So we appreciate their efforts to continue to reaching out to folks in the community, especially since we're all sort of isolated at this time. Meals on Wheels, which are home delivered meals by South Shore Elder Services, those are still going out daily, Monday through Friday from the senior center. 3 fitness instructors from the senior center have taken their classes online via Zoom, as well as 2 discussion groups. The recordings of some of those fitness classes were also submitted to Harbor Media so people can access those on cable. Finally, Elder Services staff are also sending pre-recorded phone calls out every week to seniors, providing resource information and important updates. The next one will feature information about how to get in touch with our library's tech team for help with technology questions and connecting to digital library resources, among other information that Jennifer wants to provide. And then finally, we received some updates from the school department to report tonight. So Hingham Public Schools rolled out its remote learning program to students in grades PK through 12 last week. The district is now over a week into this remote learning plan, and for the most part, they've received positive feedback. They say that while no plan can perfectly address the many needs of the variety of families we have in the community, we do feel that the plan has addressed the needs of many, with individual supports being put in place to support those who may need more support. The plan provides resources for students to be engaged with roughly 1/2 of the typical school day. So for example, if the typical length of the day was 6 hours, remote learning provides work for 3 hours per day. They continue to refine and reassess as time goes on to ensure that the plan is as responsive as possible. Last week, the school committee also voted to adjust the school calendar to work through the April vacation week, which is April 21st through 24th. to continue the momentum created by the new remote learning program. The school department continues to provide grab-and-go lunches for Hingham students in need. Those meals are picked up Monday through Friday between 9 and 11:30 a.m. at the picnic tables outside of the Hingham High School cafeteria. If anyone's not able to physically come by to pick up a meal, they can email the Director of Food Service, Kim Smith, at ksmyth@hinghamschools.org to arrange a home drop-off. The school food services team has also been providing these same meal services to Hingham veterans and their families in need in partnership with our Veteran Service Department, which has been really, really helpful and has gotten some much needed resources to people during this difficult time. And then finally, just a quick reminder about an upcoming deadline for anyone with younger children listening tonight. The school department has extended the window for fall kindergarten registration until this Friday, April 17th. Registration forms can be found on the school website, and any family who is registering is strongly encouraged to please let the school department know their intent to enroll by this Friday, because those numbers are needed to ensure the proper number of sections and teachers in the fall. That is all I had tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michelle and Tom, both very comprehensive report. For those, I see a bunch of people have called in. Before I move forward, maybe I'll just share a little bit about our meeting procedure. Typically, we will introduce a topic on the agenda, like the COVID update. Joe and Mary and I will ask questions and make comments, and then I will turn to the audience to see if you have any questions or comments that you would like to make. Depending on, how many people would like to speak, we may have to come up with a little organization, but we do want you to participate to the extent you'd like to jump in. But initially, Mary and Joe and I will talk about the topic, and then, as I said, I'll invite you to comment. So at this stage of the game, I'll turn to Joe Fisher and ask Joe if you have any questions or comments with respect to the COVID or storm update.
Well, first, just to take your lead and to thank Tom, Michelle, as well as the other Hingham departments for really stepping up and making sure that our town is running efficiently and that we are in good hands. So thank you. Especially, I want to thank HMLP for its immediate outreach to members of the community. They reached out by phone, by email, and people were well aware of what was going on and that it was being attended to. So thank you. I had a question for Tom. I think it was Tom who gave out the phone number for the Hingham social worker.
Yep.
What times should people call if they want to call that person?
So what will happen is that they'll call that number and leave a message, and Cheryl will immediately, as soon as able, will return the call.
Are there any designated times, preferred times for people to call?
So technically, the Hingham Town Hall office hours are 8:30 to 4:30. But I would think that she's checking those messages often and will return as she's able.
Okay, thank you. And then I've had inquiries from several residents about social distancing and if the town is attempting to enforce those rules, and if so, how is that being done? I'm not sure if it's Tom, if that's to you or the chief, or how should that be answered?
Sure. So what we're doing is we're following CDC and DPH guidelines in recommending and strongly to encourage people to properly socially distance, wear masks when they're outside interacting with other people, wear gloves as appropriate. As of right now, we are not mandating, the state is not mandating any of these actions, and but we are strongly encouraging them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further, Joe?
No.
Mary, questions or comments with respect to the COVID or storm update?
Yeah, thank you. I would just echo both of your thanks to all those involved. We weathered that storm better than some communities. I saw on the news before this meeting that there's still a lot of homes in Cohasset that don't have electricity, and we hope that that situation will rectify itself. But I know from personal experience, when we called HMLP to report a power outage, Somebody picked up the phone on the second or third ring. It was somebody who was local. They were able to give us information, which was just very, very helpful. I would also just, in light of the fact that our Public Works team does need to manage social distancing, I would just ask that all of the residents be patient with the cleanup process. We always are right on top of those things, but it's just going to take a little bit longer this time. Just Tom and Michelle, thank you very much for the comprehensive update. The only thing that I would suggest is one, to the extent that there are members of the media who are on this call, they might be interested in just a copy of some of the great and very comprehensive information that you gave. So I might just suggest that if there are members of the media on the call and they want this information, perhaps follow up with an email. But I also wondered, Tom and Michelle, if it would be possible for this information to be put on the town website. You know, with the school department has emails of parents, and they have the ability to send out updates to, you know, to members of the school committee. On the municipal side of government, we really don't have the ability to reach people that directly. So my hope is that between the town website, the town Facebook page, these very excellent updates, which really I think capture a lot of what we're doing as a town, be communicated so that the public is aware of the many different things that we are doing to help keep them safe.
Yes, they can all be posted on the website, and Michelle, if you want to update, maybe tell us where on the page they're likely to end up.
Sure. So we've already got the mental health and the domestic violence resources up there posted on our COVID-19 update page, but I'll take the rest of this and package it into an update from tonight and put it in the same place. That's when you go to the town website, you'll see a box and a little button for the COVID-19 update center, and then you'll see these items listed, the most recent at the top, all of the updates that the town's been posting. At the same time, we've been posting many of them also to the town Facebook page.
Yeah, and Karen, I would just close, you know, over the weekend, I know when I was out and around the town, I saw a lot of social distancing. I did see a couple instances where there were people congregated. The shipyard was one area where, you know, I saw some people really not social distancing. As much as our public safety team and our town employees can do what they can, you know, this social distancing is really a partnership that we have with the community, and we all have to do our individual parts to help us all emerge from this quickly and you know, and with as little harm to our community as possible.
Thanks, Mary. Great comments. You know, again, I feel like we're all significantly stressed. We're stressed in our personal lives, we're stressed in our professional lives, and then, you know, to add this storm response, which I frankly think the town of Hingham does extremely well, but to add that to the plate of our police department, our fire department, the light plant, and the Department of Public Works, you know, it's really put an extra burden on folks that were already asking to step up in a very significant way. And again, you know, Mary Jo and I have said this, I think probably going on every week that we've been in this remote environment with you all, and that is, you know, the teamwork that the folks in this town exhibit, and our pride in our workforce. You know, I really just can't share it strongly enough. So I thank you all, the citizens of Hingham, for supporting these departments in the way that you have and the way that you continue to do. And, you know, I thank all of our workforce for stepping up in the variety of ways that we have and that we continue to ask you to do. So thank you very much. Questions from the public with respect to either the COVID-19 update or the storm update? Okay, seeing none, we are moving to the next item on our agenda, which is the harbor. And there are two components to this agenda item. One is the new mooring field design that the Harbormaster shared with us, proposed and shared with us last week, and the reappointment of assistant harbor masters, which we typically do during the summer boating season. So if you joined us last week, you know that Harbormaster Corson had come up with a slightly revised mooring field design. It's an optimal time to think about reconfiguring the moorings in the inner harbor because all the moorings had to come out during the dredging process that we undertook in the fall. He has made some slight modifications to the design to take account of planned improvements to the state boat ramp and also planned float and dock additions to Barnes Wharf. My understanding after a couple different calls with him, I must admit that between my eyesight and just my lack of uptake on this, it took me a little while to kind of fully understand what Ken was proposing here. But my understanding is that everybody that had a mooring as part of the original inner harbor design will continue to have a mooring for this new design, and it optimizes I think safety and boat placement in the inner harbor. So I think Harbormaster Corson has joined us. Maybe I'll turn to him for a few remarks, and then Joe and Mary, I'll ask you to comment as well.
Thank you, Selectman Johnson. This is Ken Corson. Can you just acknowledge that you can hear me?
Kind of, you're breaking up a little bit, Ken.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, much better, thanks.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So yes, before you is the revised mooring plan for the inner harbor. In the last couple of months prior to presenting it to you, it went to the Harbor Development Committee where it received their endorsement. And I presented it to the board last week. And now I'm looking for the board to endorse this mooring field concept. And as you mentioned, mainly the changes evolve around the boat ramp and Barnes Wharf boats that might go in. If this plan is approved or endorsed by the board going forward, as in the past, there will be potentially changes to the plan as we start putting boats on moorings and we see if there are any challenges or modifications that need to be made. We would make those changes on the fly going forward so that all boats are accommodated properly. And I just wanted to reiterate again that anyone who had a mooring in the inner harbor in the previous year will have a mooring again this year, and we're able to add some additional boats to the inner harbor from the waiting list.
Great.
So that's all I have to comment at this point.
Thank you. Joe Fisher, any questions or comments for the Harbormaster?
No, I mean, I've gone over this several times with the Harbormaster. I think his approach is sound, and I really commend his work in getting this done and getting it done now. One of the points that he made to me, and I just want to make sure that I've got this right, is that part of the plan has been in response to the type of boats that are now using our harbor. At one point, there may have been more power boats or more sailboats. I'm not sure which one it was, but he's been very responsive to the demands that are being placed on the harbor, and that this proposed plan is really in response, to some extent, in response to those demands. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's in response to not only the type of boat, whether it's a power or a sail, but also the different lengths of boats in the harbor. So the number of boats that are sail and power has varied over the last 10 years, as well as the lengths of those boats. So this new plan takes into consideration the length and type of boats that we had in the harbor last summer, as well as boats that are on the waiting list, to figure out a way to accommodate as many from the waiting list as possible.
Terrific, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Mary Power, questions for the Harbormaster?
Like Joe, I've had conversations with Tom and with Harbormaster Corson. Last week's discussion was helpful. The maps are helpful. So I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, I would echo Mary's comments and Joe's comments as well. It was nice to have another week to digest, the plans on this. Ken, thank you. And thanks for making yourself available for follow-up phone calls. At this point, I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if there are any comments or questions with respect to the new mooring field design for the Inner Harbor. Okay, seeing none, and if my colleagues don't have any further questions, I would accept a vote on this.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge that the board's review of the proposed Inner Harbor Basin Mooring Plan as presented on the Foth Infrastructure and Environment LLC plan entitled Hingham Inner Harbor Mooring Plan dated March 11th, 2020, and to approve the Harbormaster's proposed implementation of the plan, including such minor modifications of the plan as the Harbormaster may deem appropriate.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Fisher,
Aye.
Mary Power,
Aye.
Maren Johnson? Aye. Great, thank you. And thanks, Ken. I appreciate you being on the line. And
You're welcome.
next up, before we let you go, is the appointment of assistant harbor masters. We've had a chance to chat about this, you and I, and I'm sure you've talked with Joe and Mary, but maybe you could just take us through the need to hire these folks and the arrangement that you have with them at this stage of the game.
Sure, absolutely. So we've had a couple of assistant harbor masters that won't be returning this summer. Two of them specifically have moved on to be patrol officers with the police department, and several others are graduating Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and they're pursuing other careers. So as the boating season approaches, we would like to appoint three new assistant harbor masters to help meet the staffing needs this coming summer. This was a process that started actually last fall, and the candidates have gone through a number of pre-employment screening. The three that I'm presenting have met all the requirements of the pre-employment screening and have experience that will benefit our community on the waterfront. Now, with their appointment, I know that this is a challenging time to consider bringing new people on to the town hall, to the town government. But the way these positions are set up is such that after they're appointed, they're put on a schedule as needed. So if we come to a situation where we find out that, let's just say that there's no boating this summer and we have no need for them, they wouldn't be put on a schedule and the town wouldn't have to be paying any type of salary or monies to them. So we worked hard this winter to come up with these three candidates. They seem like great candidates and will serve our town well. And I would like to be able to have them appointed to the position of assistant harbor master such that if they are needed this summer, we'll have the ability to make use of them to serve the community.
Great, thank you. Joe, questions with respect to the appointment of the assistant harbor masters?
I've reviewed the candidates. I think they're excellent candidates for the town. Thank you for bringing these folks forward. And I also thank you, Ken, for respecting the town's budget and acknowledging that these folks will be available and will be used when it's appropriate, and that this is not, at this point, placing any undue burden on the town. So thank you. That's it.
Great. Mary?
I agree with everything Joe just said. No further questions.
Great. Questions from the public with respect to the appointment of assistant harbor masters? Hearing none, I would accept a motion.
I move to appoint Bradford Betzner, Michael Nash, and Matthew Pulio as assistant harbor masters working under the discretion of the harbor master for a 3-year term ending June 30, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Fisher,
Aye.
Mary Power,
Aye.
Karen Johnson? Aye. Great. Thanks. Thanks, Ken.
Karen, before
you very
Ken hangs up, Ken, don't hang up. Karen, do you mind if I make a statement?
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, in Ken's presentation, he highlighted that 2 of his former harbor masters have become Hingham police officers. A couple of others just graduated from the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. this is hopefully a real pride point for Ken and your leadership, Ken. You do a great job with this work with this department, and you bring along these people so that they can really, and in large part, they're often helping us as they move on in their careers through very professional positions such as police officers. So really, thank you for everything you're doing, Ken. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Tom.
You're here.
Yes.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for pointing that out, Tom.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are moving to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion of extending the due date for tax bills, deferral applications, and exemption applications under Chapter 53 of the Act of 2020. So, I think, again, if you've tuned in the past, we've talked about the fact that the state really controls how we collect our taxes and how and what tools are available to us when we make changes in the way or the timing of the collection of taxes. And so in the midst of the COVID pandemic, the legislature has been, as you know, very, very active, I think, in trying to anticipate issues and anticipate state resources or state solutions in this unprecedented time. And so one of the things that the state legislature did as part of the acts of Chapter 53, the acts of 2020, was to allow towns to extend the due date for real estate taxes. And our finance team, led by our treasurer collector, G. Montgomery, did some exceedingly comprehensive and careful analysis on the effect that 1 month extension would have on the town. And what we hope is a benefit to taxpayers to take a little extra time in having to pay that bill. So what I'd like to do is turn to G. Montgomery on behalf of the finance team to take us through her analysis, and then I'd turn to Joe and Mary to make any comments or ask any questions that they might have. Jean?
Good evening. Hello, everybody. So Karen, that's a great introduction. Thank you. So as with all the departments, this has all happened so quickly and so unexpectedly that municipalities are really running very fast to keep up with these changes in legislation. And so we're trying to move this along. And we appreciate very much your quick response to this, because our tax due date is coming up quickly. So as Karen said, this recently enacted legislation that the state put out there to help municipalities, it relieves some of the restraints we have on us under the general law for collection of taxes and other tax-related items, allows a couple of different options for municipalities to consider. Karen outlined them. One is extending the tax due date, and the other is reopening the application period for exemptions and deferrals for taxpayers, which the exemption and deferral deadline actually closed on April 1st. So this would reopen it for people who were probably otherwise occupied or maybe not able to get out of the house. And that is also going to be extended if you as a board approve this until June 1st. So, we met the finance department, Tom, Michelle was there, Sue Nickerson, Rick Nowlin, and my assistant, Laurie Magna, to kind of hash this all out to see, what kind of repercussions putting off a May due date on a tax bill would be. It sounds easy. What's 30 days? But it is about $18 million that usually comes in between April 30th and May 1st. And the May 1st tax bill pays the town's expenses. Basically, we just collect what everybody's voted to spend, and we're into our fourth quarter. So that pays the expenses for the town for April, May, and June. So we're basically deferring that for 30 days. And then we wanted to make sure that we could do that without any serious repercussions budget-wise or incurring any expenses that you wouldn't want to do. So we looked at things like, how would this affect our year-end collections? And we think that, right now we have a very, very strong collection point at year end. We collect about 99% of the current year's taxes by June 30th. And we think that with one less month for us to do that in the tax office, you might see a drop, and maybe with the difficulties people are having, down to maybe 98%. That's still a strong collection rate. We are very fortunate to have a good cash flow base. And a lot of that, in fact, most of that is the result of your conservative budgeting that you've been taking for many, many years. Part of why we're AAA, we have a reserve fund balance that is substantial enough so that we can float this, these expenses for May ourselves without having to go outside and borrow what's called tax anticipation revenue notes that probably many other communities are going to have to do. So we would not have to incur any costs of borrowing to do this. Is a very modest interest cost. You'd say, well, we don't have that in the bank. Part of it had already been spent and we were reimbursing it anyway, your April expenses. Interest rates are very low right now. Everybody knows that, looking at their own bank accounts. So my estimate is maybe $12,000 in lost interest revenue. But the plus side of that is you're giving, the people who needed time to recover from some of this, hopefully, and get that 30 extra days to pay this bill without any interest and fees. And basically what the extra 30 days should do is prevent people who are really strapped. We have small businesses with the personal property tax who are not working right now. And we have homeowners, people that are home. I don't know how, it's awfully hard to tell how many people are home without a paycheck and aren't. There's so much of this that we just don't know, that, I think we were all looking at it as a decision that we have to assume that everybody's being touched with this some way, and that this would be a helpful relief to everybody on some level. But if it will give an extra 30 days where people who really need it won't be escalating interest fees. And we will resume our normal collection practices on June 2nd. That's basically what we looked at, is that, this is something that provides, besides providing immediate tax relief, extending the due date, would also support the important message that's out there to, for the people who are healthy. Please stay home. You don't have to come into the tax department and pay your bill, go down to the bank, get a treasurer's check, or whatever you do. For those who have been personally affected by the virus, some extra time is going to be essential, whether you've lost your job, whether you're sick, whether you have family that's sick, you're in quarantine. These are very restrictive. I had trouble finding a stamp in my house to mail taxes the other day, and I thought, this is really difficult. So sometimes something that seems simple can be a burden to people. And we have adoption of this section, which is section 10 of the Act, also reopens and extends that application period for deferral and exemptions. And the people, those are your people over your 60, 65 years old who are the most vulnerable group. So that'll give them some more time to reconsider whether they may now qualify for those exemptions or may want to think about deferring their taxes. So based on all of that, the finance department, we wanted to recommend to you that you seriously consider adopting those two options under the Act, which would be to extend the due date and to extend the application deadline for deferrals and exemptions.
Thank you, Jean. Hey, one quick question. Should we move forward affirmatively on your recommendations this evening? Do you have a plan in place for getting the word out that the due date's been moved?
Yes, part of the legislation is that, and they actually provide a notice that has to be provided to the public. This is actually one of the things that slowed us down in the beginning, because the Department of Local Services wanted these mailed to everybody, but it quickly became apparent that that was an unnecessary expense, and we were also running out of time. So there will be an information bulletin that will be posted on the town's website. I think Michelle mentioned that we have some push notifications in town that this could be circulated to the general public through that telephone mechanism, and we have our Facebook page. So we'll be getting the word out there, and this kind of news generally travels pretty quickly.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for that presentation. Joe Fisher, questions for Jean Montgomery.
Jean, thank you. That was very comprehensive, and it really shows your compassion and really the town's compassion for people who are affected at this time. Just so I understand, the extension, which goes out to June 1, does that means that people who do not pay May 1, they pay on or before June 1, that there's no interest, penalty, or any downside for making the payment a month late? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that, again, pushing the deferral and exemptions deadline for those applications out to June 1, there's no penalty. It's not as if they'll be treated in a lower class or in a different way than had they done it prior to April 1.
Absolutely not. No, the assessors have, they'll just open their period and have people come in, and they'll take the phone calls and kind of put people through the litmus test of whether they qualify. So it will just open that up with no problems.
And final question, will the town taking these actions, is that likely to have an effect on the credit rating for the town?
It should not, and that's a good question. And that was partly why I mentioned the collection rate at year end. That is one of the things that is looked at with the rating agencies. It's put in our official statement, what is our typical pattern of collecting fiscal year taxes by year end. And we usually come in at 99.5%. My worst case projection would be maybe looking at past years and seeing what my collection rate was in that month that we missed. If it drops by 1 to 1.5% at 98%, we're still in good standing.
Thank you. I'm satisfied. I've already gone over this with Tom and Michelle and with Sue Nickerson, and I think this is the prudent path for the town to take. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Mary, questions for Jean Montgomery with respect to the extension of the property tax bill deadline?
Jean, thank you very much, not only for the analysis, but for the very comprehensive explanation of it. Karen, you mentioned a little earlier that right now people are stressed in a lot of different ways. And I think this is one way that we can help people be a little bit less stressed. I would just point out that the extra 30 days that Jean is talking about still places the extension within the quarter. So in terms of, the financial markets, et cetera, I think Jean's characterization of the implications for the town are spot on. We talk about our rainy day fund, and we talk about, using it when there is a rainy day, and boy, this is it, man. I think the good news is that we have a healthy fund balance. So that means that we are able to take actions like this to give a little bit of relief to members of our community who are stressed right now. So like Joe, I've talked with Tom, I've talked with Michelle, I've talked with the finance team. I appreciate the quality of the analysis as well as the explanation tonight.
Yeah, here. I just thought, Sue, Rick, Jean, Michelle, you put together really a very comprehensive package. And as I started to read, I was like, well, wait, what about this? And then when I was patient enough to get to the next sentence, I saw that the answer was already reflected there. So, as Mary and Joe have stated, I think this is the right thing to do, and you've given us the analysis, I think, or at least from where I'm coming from, the analysis to consider this responsibly and be able to move forward with confidence that it's the right thing to do for the town, and it's also something the town can do. With that, I would open it up for questions from the public with respect to this extension of the property tax bill deadline, and also the extension for deferrals and tax exemptions. Anybody from the public like to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, I would take a motion, and there are two parts to this because there are two pieces of the statute that we would adopt here. And so there are two votes, one to extend the deadline and one to extend the deadline for tax deferral and tax exemption, as Jean has outlined. Would one of my colleagues like
Would
to
you like a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen, in accordance with sections 10A, Roman numeral 1 to Roman numeral 3 of Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, extend the due date of property tax bills under GL Chapter 59, Section 57 and 57C from May 1, 2020 to June 1, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor, Joe Fisher,
Aye.
Mary Power,
Aye.
Karen Johnson? Aye. Great.
And I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen, in accordance with sections 10A, 4 of section 53 of the Acts of 2020, extend the due date under the third paragraph of General Law, Chapter 59, Section 59, for applications for tax deferral and tax exemptions from April 1, 2020 to June 1, 2020.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Fisher,
Aye.
Mary Power,
Aye.
Karen Johnson? Aye. Okay, well done. Again, Jean and team, thanks for stepping up quickly to analyze this legislation. As Jean said, there's a lot of stuff coming at us very quickly. And, you know, sometimes we need to pause and really reflect on how it could be implemented and how it's going to impact Hingham. And in this case, the finance team did just that. So thank you again for your really good work on this.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jean. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is public comment for items not on the agenda this evening. So if there's a question or comment that you'd like to make with respect to something that was not on the agenda tonight, now is your chance. Okay, seeing none, we move to appointments. I actually would like to put an appointment before my colleagues this evening. As you might recall, we have an opening on the Hingham Public Library Board of Trustees. I realize that it's sort of short term because the term that we're filling is an unexpired term of an individual who's been elevated to the Library Corporation Board. But nonetheless, I think it's helpful to have a full municipal complement on the Library Board of Trustees. So I would like to make a motion that we appoint Thomas Carey to the Hingham Public Library Board of Trustees to fill an unexpired term ending June 30, 2020.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I was just going to add that I spoke to Tom today, and I am very impressed and think he will be an excellent trustee. So I fully support.
Thanks. Fantastic. All those in favor? Joe Fisher?
Aye.
Mary Power?
Aye.
Karen Johnson? Aye. Okay. Selectmen and town administrator reports. Michelle? I usually start with Michelle, right? Yeah, Michelle. And just so you know, Michelle, I look to my right.
I'm there with you in spirit.
Okay.
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your earlier remarks. Tom?
Yeah, just one thing I didn't point out earlier, the DPW crews, they were in until around midnight or so last night. They were back in this morning at 5 a.m. and they've been at it all day. I just didn't highlight the effort that they're putting in to get this cleanup and the roads clear as quickly as possible. So a big thank you to all of them.
Thanks, Tom. Joe?
Just a couple comments. First, I wanted to reiterate the plea I made last time to make sure that we all fill out the U.S. Census. It's important that the town be able to get its appropriate share of funding and that the state get its appropriate share. So please, if you haven't done so, complete the census. And second, I just wanted to sound a warning that unfortunately with COVID, has come increased scams that are focusing on folks throughout the country, including here in Hingham. Earlier in March, the Federal Trade Commission and the Food and Drug Administration's warning letters to 7 companies that were selling products with unsupported claims that they could treat or prevent the coronavirus. You need to be alert to these scams. They're fake emails and texts. There's Social Security scams going on right now. Letters going out saying that the recipient's Social Security benefits have been suspended because of the pandemic. You really need to be careful about the Medicare scams. There's stimulus check scams that are out there. There are fake coronavirus websites. There are fake investment scams and fake charities that are popping up. So please be alert. This is a time for all of us to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, taking care of our neighbors, and make sure that we don't fall prey. And thanks to everyone in town really who has stepped up. Much appreciated. I get comments and calls from other residents who are really impressed by what they see throughout the town. So thank you all.
Thanks, Joe. Mary.
2 things. First of all, I've actually gotten a couple emails from citizens asking about how the current situation is affecting the town's transition to owning the water company. And, you know, while a lot of our meetings and a lot of activity is obviously focused on COVID-19 and on delivery of services, I did want to let the community know that we continue to work towards the transition of the water system. The town continues to have weekly capital calls with Aquarian. Aquarian has made modifications to its operations to ensure continuity of service and safety. We continue to work on transition work and a contract with Suez, which is the water system operator that the town has selected. In conjunction with Environmental Partners Group, we continue to refine our business plan and the rules and regulations. And our finance team is also working on preparing the necessary documentation so that when it's appropriate to go out for financing of this transaction, the town is ready. So we do continue to work very diligently on that. And I did just want to extend, you know, the board and the town's appreciation to Council John Coughlin for really all of his outstanding work on all different aspects of that. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that the Hingham Food Pantry has increased the number of times that it is accepting donations. And actually next week, it will be accepting donations of non-perishable goods at the food pantry on Monday, April 20th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. and on Wednesday, April 22nd from 12:30 p.m. to 2:00 p.m. For those who also shop at the Stop and Shop near the shipyard on 3A, the food pantry donation bin has been relocated. It's now in the far left-hand side of the store where the shopping carts used to be stored. At last check-in, the food pantry had seen an uptick of, I believe it was about 20% in the number of citizens who are looking for its services. So as we are all out, you know, shopping for groceries and trying to take care of our families, the food pantry appreciates our looking out for our neighbors in the community as well.
Well said, Mary. I have two quick things. One is you might remember a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago now, maybe the board delegated to me the review and sign off on payroll and accounts receivable warrants. I just wanted to thank Sue Nickerson for spending probably way too many hours in front of her scanner, sending me the warrants so that I could review them and parse them, work with her to make sure that, you know, I felt on behalf of the board they were accurate and so that I could sign off. So we were in arrears by about 5 weeks. So Sue, thank you for your efforts there. We were able to get that cleared up this week. And I thank the board for placing that confidence in me to get that done. The other thing is, Joe and Mary know, we were working with our state delegation to put together a small business resource update that occurred on Monday. Really, really well done. Joan Moschino, Representative Joan Moschino, really spearheaded the effort. She gathered information from the federal government, from Senator Markey's office principally, and put together a slide deck that highlighted both federal and state resources that are available to small businesses. Excuse me. A representative from Jamie O'Connor's office, Representative O'Connor's office was on the line, as well as, Jamie Murphy's office, as well as State Senator Patrick O'Connor. You know, I just have to say, they're the other leg to the stool here. They are watching out for Hingham, and in particular on this call made very clear that they're supportive of our local merchants. They had gathered representatives from various state departments and banks on the call. I've asked Tom and Michelle to put the slide deck on the website in case small business owners that couldn't join the call on Monday, had particular questions. Darian Johnson from Senator Warren's office was on the call. People are concerned, and I think this is one of those places where government can step up and help. In our own small way, we just did that this evening with the extension of the property tax deadline. But I think the goal of the call on Monday was to make small businesses aware of the resources that are out there and try to connect and facilitate the access to those resources by small businesses. I'd like to also give a really big shout out to Lynn Barclay, who was really instrumental in organizing the call and making sure that the merchants know what is available to them. And also from the Hingham Business Council, Jeff Taccio was instrumental in making sure that the Hingham Business Council membership was aware of the event. So, Joe and Mary and I, again, have said more than once how vital the merchant base is to the town of Hingham. And again, we're trying to be as supportive as we possibly can be to that base, to make people aware during the interim period here, what businesses continue to be up and running, what services are available, what restaurants are doing takeout, and hopefully what retail establishments are offering curbside pickup. That's part of our community notice section of the COVID section of the website. It's not something we typically do, and we do make clear that we're not endorsing any product or service. But I think we have a role to play in promoting awareness, and that's what we're trying to do. So, again, I think our view is we're in this together as a community, and to the extent that we can partner and make our resources available to help other people out, I think that's what we're trying to do here. So it was, I think, well-attended, information was helpful, and will be on the website. And after that long-winded report, I don't have anything further. Joe or Mary, all set?
Yes,
All set?
All right, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Joe Fisher,
Aye.
Mary Power,
Aye.
Karen Johnson, aye. Good night, everybody. Thanks.